overall thoughts on everything that just occurred. Um, New beta announced May 12th to May 14th. So server slam. They did say level cap is going to be level 20, but the most interesting thing about it for me is they're going to bring item drops away from what the boosted were. And so we're actually going to see how often we're picking up rare items, legendary items, all of that stuff. Because obviously in the beta, by the time you hit 25, you were full slotted with all legendaries. And it was like, okay. Level cap at 20 is weird though, because you won't be able to get your ultimate. It's going to leave you like just a little bit short of your ultimate skill. So maybe that was a mistake. Maybe it will go to 25. Either way, yeah, I'm curious to see what the item just like drop rates will actually be like. Will there actually be some interest there? Now, let's go over what they discussed, kind of the extra pieces beyond the beta feedback that they just had talked about in that blog previously. The first thing is they talked about items and how they kind of unlock in the future. So for instance, no unique items will be droppable until you're level 50 plus in the Nightmare world tier. So like you have Adventure, Veteran, then like Nightmare and Hell. I don't know what the fourth one is. So no unique items until that tier is a little sad, because I do like the idea of being able to find a unique, like, again, Bloodfist or Gorefoots or whatever things. Low level uniques can be really fun to pick up and just use for a little bit. And so, you know, so that'd be kind of nice. I'm a little sad that we don't get any of those. Gold Dagger, Hotspurs, you know, whatever, right? Like, doesn't have to be something used for the whole game, but just something for, you know, a cool little spot. The second piece was they talked about sacred and ancestral items. So sacred items came in the Nightmare, and then ancestral came in the fourth level, Torment, Inferno, whatever it is. And it seems to me like it's going to be a little bit like Diablo 3 and the itemization there, where you're always upgrading everything that you have every time you move up to kind of the next stage, right? That was the one thing that I really disliked about Diablo 3's itemization, was nothing mattered. Every piece of gear that you found at level 40 was worthless when you were 50, because it all got replaced at 50, and then at 60 you replaced it all, and then at 7, you know, it's like everything, just nothing mattered, because whatever, you were just going to replace it again soon enough, because as soon as you leveled up, it was always just going to be better. It had higher item power, it had higher, you know, whatever pieces. And here they said you're kind of gonna, it's the same system but slightly different. So if we go to Paint really fast, our handy dandy Paint, here it's like not quite the same, but it looks like it's gonna be, you have your like level 1, let's say level like 25, 50, 75, and then 100, right? And they were saying you'll get sacred items in this window. So when you hit level 50, you'll unlock tier 3. This is tiers 1 and 2 right here, right? This kind of like spreads for the entirety of this. At level 50, you can hit 3, and then I'm guessing at like level 70 or something, you hit level 4 of your difficulty. And basically everything you find in here, you're just going to be upgrading as you like go along in your levels, a la D3. Here they were saying at level 50, you may find an item that is really, really good that would carry over through until you hit like 70. But then at 70, you're going to unlock the tier 4, and now you'll get ancestral items, whereas these are sacred items. And so anything found in this section is still going to be worthless once you get into the ancestral stuff, right? So it's like you can then, once you get to 70, you can just trade this item to somebody that they can use from level 50 to 70. But it kind of like just stays within these bounds. So all the items are kind of staying within that. And then maybe ancestral will be the same thing, where it like you can find any item from 70 to 100 or something, and that'll have, you know, kind of that piece. But it still has the same idea, which is you're never finding some GG ring, some GG item right here or right here that you're going to carry into the end game because it's just so dope. It's so good. Or something that, you know, like, oh, wow, those are some tri-res boots that are just, like, super awesome, and that's going to be really great, and I'm carrying that all the way through. I don't think that's going to exist, because from what it sounds like, and from what they're saying, you're just going to replace it as soon as you get right here. This also creates a little bit of a question around the legendary aspects, because if I have a legendary aspect that I really, really like, I wouldn't ever want to imprint it on like anything until I imprinted it on an ancestral item, right? Otherwise, I imprint it here, but then in a few levels, then it's gone, right? This item is worthless, and I also can't trade this item then because it's been imprinted. So that creates some questions to me. Unless the idea is you will only find low level, like, you know, let's say 1 to 2 or something, 3 to 4, and then like, let's say level 5 is the highest level of the aspect, legendary aspect or something. So maybe you'll only find bad ones down here that you'll imprint here. Then you'll have better ones here that you'll imprint here. And then you'll have the ancestral aspects that you'll imprint over here. So you're always going to be just imprinting as it goes along. But again, it brings us to the same idea all the way, which is everything you find in here is garbage. Everything you find in here is garbage. All that matters is this, right? Because no matter what, you will always replace everything in these zones when you get to here. And that, if true, kind of sucks. Just my thoughts. It's the same in D2? Is it? Or do those Chancy gloves I find right here still get used over here? Do that GG 10 FCR ring with, you know, some 15 strength and some res here still get used over here? Do those tri-res boots I found right here still get used over here? They do. They definitely do. Does that insight rune word I made right here still get used over here? Yes. Yes, they do. Now, are you generally going to be upgrading items as you move along? Of course. Of course. But everything you find in here is not worthless. You definitely want gear to be improved as you go along. But when you're constantly just upgrading because this has a green up arrow and it's plus, you know, 50 more item power, and it just, everything, all of your spells, all of your damage, everything is tied to your weapon and whatever stuff, then you have to just keep upgrading it, you know? Every time I level up, I get weaker because everything else levels up with me, unless I get the next item.
If it weren't for your top grade skills at MS Paint, I don't think I'd be able to comprehend these difficult scenarios.
Thank you. So, itemization still has the concern for me because of all of this that they announced. Let's talk about the next piece that they said. They talked about the Paragon boards. I still think the Paragon boards will be interesting. To me, it's a little like forced complexity, where it's like so much, so many options, so many things, you know, um, all the different routes you can take, whatever. But overall, I think it's going to be actually extremely simple. It'll just be really confusing to look at and understand, but then once you understand it, it'll actually be very basic and simple. Which to me is kind of like the Path of Exile skill tree a little bit, right? It's like so massive and crazy, but then like it's actually pretty simple. And when you look at the, you know, you go to a build guide or two, you're like, oh, okay, so this is just where I go. So I think it's kind of mirroring that a little bit, where the complexity is overly complex for not actually as much depth as I think there will be. But we'll see. We'll see how it actually ends up. I'm still excited to try out the Paragon board. You know, I'm still excited to try it out. Let's see what else they talk about. They said they didn't want to add in map overlays because it's a good feature and they wanted to not have that feature or something. I was really confused why they said that. I don't understand why they're fighting against having map overlays. Like I say, my best guess is it covers cosmetics, and then the exec said don't do that or something. Yeah, they're like, they want a clean screen and they don't want you to have the option to clutter it, but it's like people like cluttering their screen with the map. That's just, we like doing that. I'm sorry. You don't make it optional. That's it. It's just an option. Even if you're somebody who hates it, you don't have to ever put it on. You can have your little corner map and it's great. Let us have it as an option. It's weird that they've taken away something that's for over 20 years existed in games. We have 25 years. This is a staple in ARPGs, and they've decided to remove it. So I dislike that completely. Let's see, what else did they talk about? They went through, they're going to keep adding to crafting. Like I say, I do like good crafting. I hope they don't copy Path of Exile and where every season adds more and more and more and they don't deprecate old stuff or whatever. Because then it just gets so convoluted and so ridiculous. Try and think what else. They're changing the font. That's nice. We'll see how that looks. They went through the blog where they talked about like improving the druid now, so he should be better and stuff. And I'm interested in testing in the beta how it sees, and how it plays. They talked about target farming a lot, so that'll be interesting to see as well, right? They talked about having caches and these hell tides, which just seem like terror zones with a little bit extra to them. But it's like, okay, I want to go buy a legendary helmet, I guess. And so you go and kill a bunch of monsters in the zone and you collect all of the whatever currency it is. And then you go to that cache and buy a legendary helmet from that cache. It seems like something potentially fun to go do for a bit. We'll see how that is.
I'd like to hand you some non-season items for chat. Do you distribute those? Enigmas,
Sure.
Last Wish, etc.
Yeah. May 4th is the Diablo 2 reset. As the Diablo 2 reset. Which is quick. That's a quick turnaround. That's only 3 months, I believe, because originally it was going to be June, like 4th, 5th, 6th. But of course, that's when Diablo 4 was launching. I thought they were going to delay Diablo 2, but instead they pushed it up another month. So, yeah, that's going to be really, really, really fast. Push for 99. It's probably too early. Again, my baby is only not even a month old. I doubt I can leave Moo Girl for a week to grind 99. Unless we do another slow 99. Yeah, I doubt we're getting anything new this season. I really imagine it's just push something over really fast, and then they'll focus on Diablo 4 for the next, 4 or 5 months, whatever it is, 6 months, and maybe forever. Maybe that this is the last patch we got from D2R. Who knows? I'd hope we get a little bit more stuff, but thank you, P-Ties. Thank you, Skeevert and Scripted, and I'm Liggett. Anything else? Anything else that they talked about that we want to go over? Sure, Skeevert. Message me on Discord. The new dungeon layouts. The first one they showed definitely looked a little bit improved. The second one still looked medium. The thing is, right, so here was their dungeons. So like the old dungeon was like this. Bloop, 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 bloop. Right? And so here was the dungeon, and here was the little things you had to go collect. Right? So you'd like come in, and then you go there, and then you go there, and then you'd go there. And that was only even if you didn't have to return it each time, which sometimes it felt like you did.
Your skills are so familiar to Dylan Eakin.
I don't know who that is, but thank you, I guess. So now they changed this dungeon to be... I'm trying to remember like how that map was. It was like this, and then there was like this, and this, and then... It was something along these lines. So this was like the new map. So you'd come in here and you could like explore whatever, but eventually you'd just do like this circle and you'd get all your objective pieces. And then I guess you just go here to the boss. And like I say, it looked a little improved. I still think if you'd added like this right here, this would improve it even more, You made like just a little bit more. Just again, give like a couple more routing. I think this also like came up here or something, Just like give a couple more like paths for you to like go down. Don't make it so one tiny long alley, I think that's the biggest piece, is it just doesn't need to be one alley. But I still think overall it was a slight improvement. The second one they showed, the map came in and it was like this. And then over here. And then this was like this kind of. And this. Trying to be really careful here. I feel like I almost drew a swastika. And so then you had like an objective here, an objective here, 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 here or something, right? And so the idea was still that you had to do like up to here, back to here, crossing, running around, through to here, back to here, through to there, back to there, get there, back to there, back to there, right? Whatever it was, and they just didn't like, that you had to do like all of this and like all of this and whatnot. And so this was the piece. And they changed it to be like this more. And so this was here, this was here. I don't remember how they changed this one exactly. I'm just going to like do my own thing with it. It was kind of like this, essentially. So you like went up, and now you didn't have to do all that backtrack. You just kind of, again, ran the like
Meow, 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 meow.
the alley a little bit. Thank you, Misha's. You know, this isn't quite what that one looked like, but it was still the idea. And I think the overall idea is still like, don't have so many of these objectives that you have to go and like grab completely. And again, the map still felt kind of very, you know. Whereas, you know, I grab something like this. And here's like Diablo 2, you know, map from the catacombs, right? So you start here. And you have kind of these dead ends that you do run into. And you have to backtrack, right? And this is something I talked about kind of a lot before. Oh, this one doesn't have... Oh, here's the exit, yeah. This guy was like, do I not have an exit map? You know, so it does have this. And these aren't fixed either, right? They're procedurally generated. But something that I really like about this is, number one, with the procedural generation, you are a lot of times getting these, you know, such a different variety within the map. So that could be one. But then this could be, you know, the second map. And this one's got a lot more of like inner workings right here, you know, and stuff that like this is going to be more, you get to kind of make all these whatever choices in your movement. Whereas, oops, this one is more, you know, it kind of has more of its like linear pieces to it. But what works better with backtracking isn't the worst thing ever. I was thinking about it. This was a thought I was having. I talked about it at the beginning of the stream, but I'll talk about it here. Thank you, Firefox. What makes the backtracking not as bad here is in Diablo 2, you're not always killing all the monsters. So for instance, you may have a horrible pack of like tainteds right here. You may have some, you know, vampires up here. I mean, this is level 2, so you won't, but, you know, let's pretend. You might have, you know, just a ton of like fallens and all over the stuff crowding in right here. And you're not always killing all of these monsters, because you could have that, then you could have a group right here, some stuff in here, stuff there. Maybe there's some dudes here. There's a pack in here. There's just like some guys here. You know, it's like you have all this stuff. And you're not always killing every single group of all this stuff. So sometimes you hit this and you're like, oh, forget that. And you're going to like run this way. And you might kill some of this. Then you go this way. And you come back and you're like, ah, crap. I have to go through this stuff again. Like there's still so much here I don't want to kill. And so I think this is a really helpful thing, is just having like monsters and packs that you don't always want to kill. Because sometimes in D2, I'll like barely squeak by this like horrible group right here. And then I'll realize it's a dead end and I have to go back past that group again. And I'm like, ah! And it's like this whole thing. I got to figure it out and get past him again. So, you know, I think that is a helpful piece in Diablo 2's just like dungeon design overall. Because otherwise, if you kill every single thing, all these are gone. Yeah, now it's like, oops, super boring to run around this map if there's just no monsters and I just have to like, I'm just like looking, but everything is already dead. Wait, where is it? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. You know. So, yeah, so I do hope they increase the number of monsters, and I do hope they increase it to a point where there's certain groups that you just want to avoid. But then that helps with maps that do have kind of these sorts of sections. And I think what also is helpful is if this was Diablo 4, you would have a mechanical box right here, a mechanical box right here, and a mechanical box right here. And so even if you make the perfect route to this exit, it doesn't matter. You have to go back because you have to get this box and then this box and then this box before you can move on, right? And I think that is another piece that really affects it. It's like, it doesn't matter if you ran to the boss room, you did this perfect pathing, you figured it all out. None of that matters because you have to go get all the objectives. Oh, I'm so thirsty. That's my water.
Look at all the big cups you have down here.
Where's my big blue cup?
Right there. By the trash can. Oh, well, I don't know.
That's okay. Thank you. Oh. Yeah, it's a little... I have a newborn, okay? So... Whew, I was thirsty. But overall, I think the dungeons have improved some. They talked about more ambush. They talked about more events happening within them, all of that stuff. I'm hoping the dungeons are going to be really exciting to dive into. We've got the Nightmare Sigils, which just seem like maps from Path of Exile. I'm just going to be honest. So we'll see like how that feels, if that seems fun, if that plays through well. Or if, again, it'll still be just kind of too tedious to go through that in that capacity. So, we shall see. We shall see, everybody. But overall, I'm more enthusiastic now. I think it's an improvement on the beta. I think they took good feedback and implemented it. I still think this is my overall difficulty with D4. And again, I don't know. I'm going to play this game and I'm going to play it open-minded and I'm going to try and have as much fun playing it as I possibly can, right? Like when I played Diablo 3, I enjoyed the game for many hours. It was a little easy at first, but then I enjoyed it for a bit. And then eventually I got tired and I didn't want to play it anymore. But I'm going to go in, I'm going to try and play it through and have some fun. But I still think the main problem, I want to be careful how I say it. I still think the main difficulty or issue is the system, the underlying systems that they are building on are not solid in what I personally enjoy. So not solid, but the foundation to me is a weak foundation. The itemization, the scaling of the game with all the levels and areas scaling up with you as you level up, those pieces I do not like. And so no matter what you do on top of that stuff, if you still have a bad foundation, and again, bad is subjective here. That's my belief of bad. You might love that foundation, and that's great. I am here for you to love it. That's totally fine. But to me, if that foundation is still that base foundation, which a lot of it feels like the Diablo 3 foundation, which is why I say this game looks a lot like Diablo 3. People go, what are you talking about? It looks nothing like Diablo 3. And I'm not saying it graphically looks like Diablo 3. I'm saying the foundation has a lot of D3 elements to it. And a lot of the pieces that got taken over, and some that they added in even, I do not agree with. So it feels like they're building on top of D3 and covering D3 with more improved stuff, but the overall foundation is still that same sort of piece, that same RPG that I do not find as enjoyable. So that's where I have my concerns. Itemization still goes to one of my biggest concerns, especially with the affixes. Again, we looked at some of the affixes from some of the items that we saw, and there was that ring, and the ring had 16% damage against elites, 18% damage against injured monsters, 10% increased basic damage, and 12% increased shadow damage. And that was the ring. And it was like damage plus damage under X condition plus damage under Y condition plus damage for element. You know? And I just don't think that's like a cool ring. You know? Like that's just like not cool affixes. Especially when there's all the conditions that come with all the damage. Damage against injured elites while you are healthy. You have to be healthy, the mob has to be injured, and the mob has to be an elite monster, and then you get the bonus. Like, what? So, those core pieces still are my biggest concern. You know? And so, we'll just have to see how it ends up playing out. The last piece I will say. One thing that slightly concerned me was when Riker said, when I was level 45, I went into a level 50 dungeon thinking I would smoke it, and I got humbled. And it worried me because I'm worried that it's getting on that D3 exponential scaling where it starts to... Yeah, it was about that capstone to advance the world tier, but where it starts to, like, get to scary points. And the idea is I deal 10 million damage at Paragon 100, but Paragon 105, I have to deal 100 million damage to kill stuff, right? I mean, Greater Rift, excuse me. At Greater Rift 100, it just becomes like you just go until you get the next item that boosts your damage up 10,000%. And then now you can fight at the next level of the grind. And my worry is when he said at level 45, I couldn't complete the level 50 dungeon and I got humbled. My worry is that all of his stuff just was garbage then. And it's just, you're just going to have to upgrade your items to then compete at that level 50. As opposed to, figuring out how to work around in the level 50. Or whatever things. And I don't know. That is pure speculation. It could just be he went in there, got smoked because he has to learn more of the fight mechanics of that dungeon, and it's going to be a little bit harder. Right? Like, totally fine. Totally fine. But they said in a different stream you have penalties when you're fighting higher level monsters than your current level. Okay. But yeah, that my concern is that it might just get to that point where it's just a gear check, essentially. But we don't know. That's something that I'm just going to have to complete or to see along the way. So, and maybe the capstone dungeons are just supposed to be gear checks completely. But we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see how much it forces you to be at that spot with a certain level, with certain gear, versus how much they allow for you to come in and, be different levels, have different gear, whatever things, but work it with skill and stuff like that. I don't know. Anyways, that's my thoughts on that full little D4 talk. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, YouTube. Peace.